Of Stablers. You got to think about that.
Thank you. And that is correct, that the laptops in the middle schools at this point do not go home with the students, but there is one for each. Although there's one for each of them,
Right.
technically they don't go home. And the other point is, I think that this decision isn't going to be a year to year. At least I wasn't thinking it was going to be a year to year, like we're going to decide each year where it's going to be. That we would make this decision with the idea that this is going to be what we're going to do, so we don't have to keep having this conversation over and over again. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay.
I'm Emma Zimmerman at Bedminster Township, and I just had a few notes, a few questions about the graduation thing. Worst case scenario, if it is held at Hellman, and it does end up being, rain dates and stuff like that. I know graduation practice sometimes is an issue. How would you have two graduation practices, one on the field and one coming inside into the auditorium? Would that be a question of having a whole day long of doing graduation practices and asking kids to be there a whole day sitting and sitting and sitting? Another thing would be missing, if we didn't have it at Stabler or where we normally have it, if we had it here instead. I know the last bus ride is something a lot of seniors look forward to. Me being a senior, this is my year. And so I wouldn't want to miss that kind of thing, the last chance to ride with all my friends, all my fellow graduates to the ceremony. And also the thing about taking a survey, I would be worried that it wouldn't be as structured enough to have the kids presented with all the facts. It is a choice for the kids to read everything you present to them. But knowing high school students, a lot of times when we get quizzes from guidance through Canvas all the time, we're like, okay, I have other homework to do, click, 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 I'm done. This is an important thing, and I think kids need to know the importance of this quiz, and I think they need to know all the facts beforehand. So maybe if there was, I know we were talking about having the sheet with all the information for everything, but if there was a way that we could make sure the teachers go over that with them and read all the facts to them so they know that they're not just clicking on things, because there was the bias brought up in the questions, which I think if we're saying there's bias in presenting the facts, that there's 10 tickets versus 8 tickets or 1, then picking the better option, having that look like the better option, is it really the better option if it looks like it? Also, I've been to the past 3 graduations. I went for a friend freshman year, and I'm in the choir. Choir actually sits closer to the bleachers than the band, which you were saying they can't see graduation. I basically sat under the bleachers for the past 2 years of graduation, and I saw everything fine. It is not an issue. Anyone can see graduation. Those screens are great. I had my boyfriend's family sat in the back row she was talking about that faces the bleachers, and they say that's the best seats they've ever seen there, because they had another son who graduated years ago. They sat on the side. They said, there's not a bad seat in there. It's really a great stadium. Everyone can see everything. It's very beautiful. I mean, you guys, most of you have been there and seen it. And I just think changing it to be here, it would be, where would we put the choir and band? Would they sit on the field? Would we have to block off a section of the bleachers for them to be seated? Would they not be able to see their friends graduate if they were held inside and then walked up to the field? It's just all those logistics questions that don't quite make sense when you're looking at it objectively. So,
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment? I think I'm on. Yes? Yes. So I know this isn't graduation. That's what I wanted to make a comment about. I know, not an easy decision. I have a senior and I have a sophomore, but I also have other relatives and other children who have grown up in the district. So my kids have grown up in this district. I would just ask you to consider 2 things. One, if you're going to put a survey out, just make sure that the options that you're going to give people a choice around, here being the option, make sure that you have all of the necessary answers to questions around people with disabilities, any safety-related incidents, and prepare. And the second is, please make it clear to these kids
if they have the opportunity to have two parents, that if by chance it has to be inside, only one of them will see them. And just make, that's a trade-off that you don't have with the indoor locations, period. That's just a fact. So I just asked you to take both of those notions to heart when you're putting a survey out. Thank you.
Oh, could you state your name and municipality?
Oh,
for
I'm
the-
sorry. Jennifer Iannetta. I have 2 children in the district and Hilltown Township. And I know a few of you.
Thank you, Mrs. Iannetta. Anyone else? There's no other public comment, then I'm going to adjourn the activities meeting, and I think we're going to personnel.
Dr. Parker, can we move the policy?